There is a great deal that could not be covered in this essay simply because of space and time considerations. For these extensive details, you'll have to go to Dark Mission itself. But after a combined 35 years researching this arcane subject, we have reached a few preliminary conclusions. We have shown that NASA's original assertions about the face and Cydonia, that it was just a trick of light and shadow, are fallacious, and its attacks on the Cydonia investigation duplicitous. Even today, while still professing no interest whatsoever in Cydonia or the face, NASA and Michael Mallon continue to gather data on it. In early 2001, word got around that Dr. Mallon was taking so many pictures of Cydonia and the face on Mars that other scientists were complaining they couldn't get time on the MGS to get images of regions of interest to them. That's from Secret and Suppressed 2, Banned Ideas and Hidden History into the 21st Century, edited by Adam Parfit and Ken Thomas. This is a Feral House book. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. I want to throw my support behind Joe at the Sludge Report 2, being attacked by a group called the JTF, trying to bring his channel down, flagging his videos. Nothing gets my goat more than purported civil rights groups who attempt to deny others their civil rights by attacking people for using their freedom of speech. So I say, screw you, JTF. Shove it where the sun don't shine. And Joe, you have my support. Now, I wanted to say something very quickly in regards to something that was in the news. I acknowledge the terrible tragedy and loss of life in Haiti. We have Pat Robertson, the wonderful Pat Robertson, coming out and saying that the Haitians brought this on themselves, basically. I'm paraphrasing, of course. But he takes this back to purported historical fact that the Haitians made a pact with the devil in order to throw off French rule. And that the misery and suffering that they've suffered in the centuries since then can be laid at that decision on their part. And all I can say to that is that Pat Robertson is a squinty-faced, senile old buffoon who purports to be a Christian, but is in fact a rich person who hides behind Christian clothing. And if he really did care about people, he would be attempting to do some good, even for those he considers to be evil and bad, because that's the Christian way, rather than pointing out the flaws of others. So, way to go, senile old kook. And, by the way, do you still have them really powerful thighs? I wanted to talk about the campaign in Massachusetts for senator, okay? So for all of you people in Massachusetts, you know, you really have a interesting situation here. You have an independent, Joe Kennedy, who has no significant corporate funding, okay, which is a major plus in his campaign stead. And also you have the fact that he wants to audit the Federal Reserve, and he wants to do several other things that are very good. And I like several of the planks in his platform. There are several other things that I disagree vehemently about. Okay, but this is a candidate that perhaps you have some ability to influence. But on the other hand, you have to think that when you elect someone to office who is not beholden to that corporate dragon, then very likely what he says he's going to do is what he's going to do. So if you don't agree with his policies, you may not like what you get in the end, if you catch my meaning. So, because of his no corporate dominance, I'd have to go with Joe Kennedy and then work from a grassroots level within Massachusetts to try and change some of the policies that he has that I do not agree with, okay? That's where my stand would be on this, because Martha Coakley and Scott Brown are both completely compromised by corporate money. Okay, most notably lawyers and law firms and securities and investment companies. So you're never going to get any kind of financial reform. You're never going to get any economic, progressive economic policies. You're never going to get any kind of legal reform. You're never going to get any kind of reform out of these people. They're going to be so far from progressive that you're never going to even hear the word spoken with anything other than bitter sarcasm when associated with these two people. So you know what you get with them too. If you want to take a different tack, Okay, because this is an election where you might have that opportunity. You might want to look and say, well, what can we do if we're really going to be stuck? If the vast majority of people in Massachusetts are still stuck in that left-right thing, and they think they're really getting something different between the Republican and Democrat, which we hope to shatter by the time the 2010 election come up, and certainly by 2012, and make people realize that you vote for a Republican, you vote for Democrat, you're voting for corporations, high finance, big business, and money. And you're voting against people, families, unions, good jobs. Period. That's it. Republican, Democrat, each occupy a branch coming off of the same stem. So, how can you play the election in Massachusetts? Well, there are a couple things you can think about here, okay? If you can't get enough support for the independent, and it seems like you're not going to be able to get that guy into office, then think how you can use the election to your advantage, okay? One, give the Democrats the seat, even though you know that the candidate's completely compromised. But in this instance, you'll have a couple things going in your favor that you can use to your advantage, because we know that they, meaning the corporate masters that give out all the money to finance these people, and I will point out this just very quickly in passing, Fidelity Investments has given almost the exact same amount of money to Martha Coakley as it has given to Scott Brown, which proves the premise that the corporations drive both parties almost equally, okay? Now, that was just an aside. Now, you give the election to the Democrat, knowing that they're completely sold out, just so the Senate keeps its supermajority and they're able to pass their legislation, thereby cutting their own throats, okay? So that even incumbents in 2010, who look pretty strong right now, may be very vulnerable and open to true independents, true progressives who don't have, a corporate war chest. Okay, so we could look forward to that. Allow the Democrats to completely hang themselves by giving them the supermajority. On the other hand, you might want to say, if it doesn't look like we're going to chisel our way into the brains of the vast majority of the people in this country and break that left-right bullcrap and shatter that illusion that there is a difference between Democrats and Republicans, and get progressives who are running, and get progressives who have a lot of support, and get progressives into office that are not compromised by corporate and finance money, then you might want to say vote in Scott Brown, because then you give the Republicans the ability to filibuster, and that will stop the passage of some legislation that's on the table now that a lot of us don't want. So we can use it to our advantage in that way, okay? If we can create gridlock in the Senate, that could serve our purposes by preventing them from passing legislation that's on the table that we know is there that we want to stop. And that can be a good thing. So this is ways that we can look at this and use it to our advantage, rather than being the fools that are on the receiving end of the machinations of the political insiders and the corporations that run the politicians. So, there are some things for you to consider. As for no corporate interference, Joe Kennedy, and then try to work on him on the issues that you disagree with him on. But on the other hand, if you're coming up to election time and it just looks like people aren't buying it, how can you work that to your advantage? How can you work that election, even though you're going to be voting for someone that you loathe in every possible way? Because I loathe Martha Coakley and Scott Brown, because I know that both of them are leading us in the exact same direction via different paths. But you can look at it from the ways I've shown you. There are ways to see this. Which way is the best way? Do you think is going to pan out, so that by the time the 2010 elections come, that we can maybe break some more of that left-right crap open and get some real progressive candidates who are not beholden to corporations into office? And failing that, then work it to our advantage, so that we get something out of it, so that there's a benefit for us for a change. So look at it in that way. And that's another way to look at elections. And particularly in this one, because it does have several different ramifications that you can look at it by. But that's my take anyway. So thank you. Good night.